If we want big arms, it's important to focus on the biggest part of the arm, which is the tricep. The tricep takes up 2/3 of our total arm volume. But the question is, how do we train the triceps properly with calisthenics? That's why in today's video, I'll be ranking 6 total calisthenics exercises for the triceps to see which ones you should keep into your routine and which ones you should fucking bump out. Let's move into the first fucking exercise, and that's gonna be dips. So we have the regular normal dip, the dip that we're used to, the dip that we love. Let's go talk about it a little bit. The dip is one of the exercises that, in my opinion, should always be a staple into your routine. So let's say you're a calisthenics athlete and you like to train push. You like to train push workouts or, upper body workouts, full body workouts. The dip should always be in there. And listen, I'm not only talking to the calisthenics athletes. I'm talking to weighted calisthenics athletes. I'm talking to the street lifters. I'm talking to the gymnasts. I'm talking to the weightlifters, power lifters. Everyone on earth who is actively practicing resistance training should add the dip into their routine. Now, why is that? In my opinion, I believe that the dip is like the upper body squat. The dip is quite literally the perfect balanced exercise for every single push muscle in your upper body. So when we look at the chest, it focuses on the entire chest. Of course, it definitely doesn't target upper chest as much as lower chest, but it targets the chest. And a lot of my chest gains came from bodyweight and weighted dips. Triceps, the video that we're talking about, same thing. You can modify this exercise to your way, how you would like it to target the muscle that you would like to target. So there's a way to target shoulders, triceps, chest. I've basically all explained it in the Jacked by Calisthenics course. So go ahead and get that right now. But the reason why I do think it's a great exercise for the dips and why I am going to put it in S tier, because if you progressively overload with the regular dip and you also use it as an exercise, as like the main priority exercise of your push workouts, I do think that there is no chance that your triceps will stay very, very small. And yes, you have certain instances where people are, for example, way more torso dominant like me. When I do a push exercise, it doesn't even matter what it is. My chest always takes over. And that's why my chest is so big, right? But the reason why I do think that even if you're a torso dominant individual, I do absolutely believe that if you progressively overload with the dip, you will still build very big triceps. Now, it's not an isolation tricep exercise, which is why we also have to isolate it, of course, if we really want to see the maximum growth in our triceps. But when it comes to calisthenics, which is majority, of course, compound movements, exercises that use more than 2 exercises to complete it, I do think that this is an S tier exercise. So we're going to put it in S tier right away. Let's move it to exercise number 2, which is going to be bench dips. Now, bench dip is basically a variation of the regular dip, but it's mainly just to focus on the triceps. I don't see basically anybody doing this because it is a type of exercise that it becomes very easy and it's very, very hard to overload. Like if I say hard to overload, like I definitely mean it's hard to overload, bro. Most beginners can already do a bunch of reps of this. If you're advanced, you have to do like 70 to 80 reps, 50 reps per set to be able to get a little bit of stimulus. You can also, of course, change the grips to having a close grip and going extremely deep like Hannibal for King used to do it. That's great too. But if we're talking about primarily tricep growth, I do think it's an absolute great exercise, and I also almost want to put it in S tier. Every single time I do this exercise, my triceps are burning to the max. Now, do I think that it's better than the regular dip if you progressively overload? No. That's one thing. I don't think so. Of course, you can combine these two and get the most bang for your buck, but do I think that it will make more tricep gains than the regular dip? No, which is why we're going to put it 1 tier underneath. So we're going to be putting it in A tier. But I do think it's a great exercise to overload your triceps, for sure. Then let's move on to the third exercise, and that's going to be the bodyweight skull crusher. Now, this is one of the exercises that I've primarily used for isolating my triceps in calisthenics. I do think there's a better variation of this exercise, and we're going to get into that later. But when it comes to the bodyweight skull crusher, it is a great exercise to actually learn how to train the long head in calisthenics, because it's very hard to train the long head in calisthenics when it comes to tricep training. When it comes to our short head and medial head, basically the other 2 heads, it's way easier to train those with dips and with bench dips and with diamond push or whatever. It is definitely a little bit easier to train, right? But when it comes to that long sweep, which is heavily activated when we have our hands or our arms overhead and we extend like this or we extend like that or we do stuff like that, basically. It's very hard to do that with calisthenics because then we have to work upside down in like a decline formation, which becomes very difficult. It becomes almost a full body core exercise, right? Now, this exercise is primarily used for the long head, and I do think that this is a great exercise to emphasize the stretch. Now, when it comes to the stretch position of this exercise, it's fucking great. If you use a regular bar or you use a bench, for instance, or your rings, you can get a very, very deep stretch if you really let your lats also kind of stretch with it. and really let your triceps just fold all the way behind your head. Like, you're really gonna get a good stretch from that. The squeeze up top could be a little bit better, but it doesn't even matter that much. I'm gonna put it for sure in A tier because I do think there's a very good variation of this exercise that could potentially get you more tricep gains, and I've showed it on this channel a bunch of times. But for the people who are just starting out calisthenics, this might be a little bit of a too advanced exercise to do to train your triceps. Most people can't really do this exercise properly and for a lot of reps to get enough stimulus. But if you do want to still do this exercise, I highly advise you just go do it on a high elevated surface, such as let's say you're in the gym and you put the squat rack, the barbell basically pretty high on the squat rack, and you just go do them right there. Just go learn them, go ahead and get comfortable with it, and then basically work your way down until you're almost flat and doing like the plank sort of way of doing it, right? So I do think it's a great exercise. We're going to put it in A tier. Let's move it to number 4. We have the tricep push-ups. Now, this is basically the variation of a bodyweight skull crusher. It's kind of the same. We have one little difference that we make with this exercise compared to the bodyweight skull crusher, and that is that we don't let our head go in between our arms. So this is basically just an extension. So if you have done tricep pushdowns before in the gym, where you basically just grab a bar, attach it to a cable station, and you push down like that, this is basically that, but it targets a little bit more long head than the short head compared to the push down in the gym. Now, why is that? That is because we're not pressing down all the way down here. We are pressing down in front of us, and when we press out in front of us or all the way above us, we target that long head, and that is exactly what we're doing right here. This is personally my favorite tricep exercise. I superset this all the time with fucking skull crushers with dumbbells or just a regular bodyweight skull crusher. A lot of times what I like to do is do the bodyweight skull crusher for like a bunch of reps, and then basically just do these very short tricep push-ups, which we're talking about right now, as like a drop set kind of exercise. What I also like to do, and this is something that you should do, is treat this exercise just as an alone exercise that you should do. So just going very slow down, treat it like bodybuilding almost, right? Going very slow down and extending back up without using your chest or shoulders, just extending back up. Squeeze that fucking long head and your lats against your long head, and that is going to be making you squeeze your triceps to the fucking max. And then go down again very, very slow, and then squeeze your forearms to your biceps so that you get that maximum tricep stretch. Absolutely amazing exercise. We're going to put it in S tier. Let's move to exercise number 5 now, and that is going to be the diamond push-up. Now, I've read somewhere, and I've covered this multiple times on this channel, I've read somewhere that there's a study that the diamond push-up actually has one of the highest tricep activation out of every tricep exercise that exists. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. I do think that there are more effective tricep exercises for me, in my opinion, such as the tricep push-up. So that's already, you know, kind of foreshadowing that the diamond push-up is going to be underneath it. But the diamond push-up is going to will be a great exercise for most people, especially to learn tricep training in calisthenics. This is basically the easiest version of the skull crushers and the tricep push-ups that we have already covered in this video. I do think that it's a little bit easier to overload this exercise. Like when you do normal diamond push-ups, that's fine. But let's say you want to take it to the next level and you actually focus on weighted diamond push-ups, and you go do them for like a bunch of sets very close and literally just squeezing the fuck out of those triceps, bro. You're gonna grow some big ass fucking like horseshoe type arms, bro. And I do, in my opinion, believe that when you prioritize the diamond push-up, especially weighted, let's say you progress all the way towards weighted enough times in the week and you take it very seriously, so you progressively overload every single week, you add a rep, you go to failure, you add weight here and there, I think that this could have the highest ROI out of every single push-up variation or tricep exercise that we have covered. You know what? I said I was going to put it in A tier or underneath the dip and all that shit. I'm gonna put it in S tier because as I just realized, the weighted component to it, the overloading component to it, the stretch at the bottom is basically perfect. The squeeze on top is basically perfect. It's very easy to overload, as I said. Like you can just add weight upon yourself pretty easily. Let's say with a backpack, weighted vest. If you want to do them elevated, so where you basically just higher up, you can add even weights on your weight belt. It's a great exercise. Let's fucking put it in S tier, and let's move on to the last exercise, and that's going to be ring tricep push-ups. Now, the ring tricep push-up is basically the exact same variation as we already covered the normal tricep push-up, but now we're doing it on rings. Do I think that this is better on rings than the normal ones? Yes and no. Yes, for that there is more range of motion on any exercise and you can modify it easier to your level. And no, because you can cheat way easier. The beautiful thing about it is that, as I already said, the range of motion is limitless, right? You can go all the way down here, but you can go even further and further and further and further stretching your tricep to the max, and then going all the way back to this position and extending back up. But most people make the mistake of cheating with this exercise, which is of course wrong. You shouldn't cheat with any exercise. The purpose of this exercise is that it should still be extremely strict, because muscles can take over a certain exercise very easily. It's very easy to fuck up an exercise like this. So basically, for example, a lot of the times when you do tricep push-ups and you're basically constantly extending, a lot of the times what can happen is the moment you shift a little bit more forward, your triceps could be totally not working no more, and your shoulders are going to be taking over the entire lift. So that's how easy you can mess up a tricep or bicep or whatever type of exercise by doing just a little bit of a different shift in your form. Now, this only happens, in my opinion at least, this only happens with isolation movements in calisthenics. So let's say you have a compound movement such as a pike push-up. If you move like a little bit more forward, you're even going to be emphasizing more shoulders. When you move a little bit more backwards, yeah, sure, your triceps will get some extra love, but you're still doing a bunch of shoulder work. You can't really like mess it up that bad, right? You're still going to be using the muscles that you are using if you were doing good form. Doesn't mean that you should do bad form, by the way, just saying. But with isolation movements, you have to really practice the form in order to get it right. So with the tricep push-up on the rings and on the normal bars, you have to really practice just staying in one position and extending back up instead of pushing back up and making it a push-up. It's not a push-up. It's not a fucking chest exercise. It's not a shoulder exercise. It is a tricep isolation exercise. So the moment when you do this exercise, make sure that only your triceps are working and that you don't shift it into another muscle accidentally, making zero progress in the long run. So I'm going to put it in A tier just because of my personal preference. I can see why other people would like to put it in S tier. I'm totally fine by that, but I'm going to put it in S tier pure for my own sake. Those were the 6 exercises that we're going to cover today. This was a tricep tier list. Where do you think I got it wrong? Where do you think I got it right? And again, if you want to build your triceps, build every single muscle in your upper body, full body with calisthenics, go ahead and pre-comp the Jacked by Calisthenics course, which has over 3-4 hours of me just basically spazzing about how to do this shit. So go ahead and click that right now. It's a top link in the description, and I'll see you in the next video. And as always, make the sacrifice and stay resilient.